The man accused of being the Gilgo Beach serial killer in court today to face new charges for a seventh victim. Rex Heuermann, who denies all charges, speaking out to audible reactions in the courtroom. Here's ABC's senior investigative correspondent, Aaron Katersky.
A heartbreaking embrace as the family shattered by a serial killer acknowledge a new addition.
They want justice for those who were murdered and who were buried at Gilgo Beach. There can be no healing without justice.
Today, prosecutors announced a seventh murder victim in the Gilgo Beach serial killer case. Valerie Mack, a 24-year-old mother, brutally murdered back in the year 2000.
The evidence is we have mitochondrial DNA from a hair that was found on the body of Valerie Mack.
There were charges in the case of Valerie Mack, and these have been long anticipated. We've been hearing for months and months that charges were going to be handed down in her case.
Rex, did you do it?
Rex Heuermann now stands accused of killing 7 women and dumping their bodies on Long Island over the course of more than 2 decades. Charges he denies.
How gratifying was it to be able to tell Valerie Mack's mom and dad that you've made this definitive link to Rex Heuermann?
Yeah, I think we've been saying this all along, that this is really what the case is about. The case is about these women.
It is a big deal, not just to have someone who is accused of one of the crimes associated with the Gilgo Beach murders, but to have someone connected with 7 of the alleged victims is massive.
Inside the courtroom, a suited and shackled Heuermann spoke directly to the judge, saying, "Your Honor, I am not guilty of any of these charges."
His voice is just not what you expect to come from a body as imposing and massive. It was more nasally and higher pitched than I expected it to be. And there was a visceral reaction to what he was saying. There was scoffing.
But prosecutors argue they have the evidence. They say Mack fit the profile of the other victims, young and small, just 5 feet tall, with a history of sex work. In 2000, not long after she went missing, a trio of hunters found a decapitated body, dubbed Jane Doe No. 6. In 2011, the rest of her remains were found in a different location. It would take until 2020 before investigators could announce a DNA match to Mack.
Now, along with her remains were key pieces of evidence that prosecutors say they have that connects Rex Heuermann to this homicide. They said they found a strand of hair that matches to Rex Heuermann's wife and daughter, similar to another victim that was found as well.
Prosecutors say they used mitochondrial DNA to make that link. The hair was found inside one of the sealed trash bags that held Mack's body. They believe that came from inside Heuermann's house, where they say he committed the murders. New documents showed DNA testing connected at least 6 victims to Heuermann, either directly or through hairs from his wife or daughter. They also say they used evidence recovered from the 350 electronic devices investigators seized from Heuermann's home, including a significant collection of violent, bondage, and torture pornography. Officials say some of the images of tied-up women and mutilation are consistent with Mack's injuries.
So today we learned that law enforcement believes that Rex Heuermann is collecting mementos in the form of magazines that covered the case or did large spreads on the case, newspaper clippings, even as far back as 1993 with the first victim he's been accused of. And really, I think this idea that he's obsessed with himself really goes to the kind of alleged criminal we're dealing with.
When it comes to the psychology of an alleged serial killer, having souvenirs of past murders is very common.
Investigators say they also found a document that prosecutors believe Heuermann used to plan out his kills, which was created the same year that Mack disappeared. That included a section labeled DS, what prosecutors believe stands for dump site. Mack's remains were found at one of those locations. Heuermann's defense team says it's focused on the evidence, attacking the DNA matches, and pointing out that no direct DNA has been found at his home.
They went through that house and that property with a fine-tooth comb. They dug up the backyard, they went into walls, they went into pipes, they went under the cement foundation, and they have yet to show anyone any evidence in that home.
The coverage of this case continues to seduce and intrigue the public. And really, I think it's just this continually mounting mystery that no one can really get enough of.
For years, communities across Long Island lived in fear.
4 bodies and counting.
Police are worried they have a serial killer on the loose.
After 4 bodies wrapped in burlap were dumped in a marshy area along this Long Island beach in 2010, bodies were all found within a quarter mile of each other. They became known as the Gilgo Beach murders.
Everyone's gonna have to go.
The killer remained on the loose until last year, when Heuermann was arrested outside of his Manhattan office and charged with the murders of the so-called Gilgo Four.
Rex Heuermann is a demon that walks among us.
Prosecutors say Heuermann went undetected for so long in part because he lived a double life. The public saw a father of two, an architect who commuted into New York City.
I'm an architectural consultant. I'm a troubleshooter. Born and raised on Long Island.
He even appeared in this YouTube video more than 2 years ago, around the time investigators began to suspect he could be the killer.
This is an individual who is a professional. He has no prior criminal history. He was used to getting on a train in the morning, going to work, supporting his family, and coming home at night.
This past summer, prosecutors released a chilling document that they say includes sickening instructions Heuermann wrote to himself. Hit harder, use heavy rope, get sleep before hunt, remove marks from torture, all included in what prosecutors are calling a blueprint for murder. Over the summer, prosecutors added the 5th and 6th murder charges after an exhaustive search of Heuermann's home in Massapequa Park on Long Island.
I can't express what this day means after waiting and hoping for answers.
Victim Jessica Taylor was a sex worker who disappeared in 2003.
This year has been 21 years since she was taken from us, longer than the chance that she got to be alive.
Valerie Mack's body was found not far from Taylor's, who was also decapitated. This may not be the end of new charges against Heuermann. With one of the crimes taking place more than 30 years ago, prosecutors are now broadening their timeline, re-examining more accounts of missing women.
How many more victims do you think you're going to be able to do?
You know, unfortunately, we have a lot of unsolved cases, and through our cold case unit, we're working on those cases. So whether they're related to this case or not, we're just going to keep plugging along, one case at a time.
Heuermann has pleaded not guilty to all the charges.
I know that the district attorney is trying to put closure to these victims. What prosecutors like to do often is kind of use one case to bootstrap another case.
The bodies of the other 5 victims have been identified as Melissa Bartholome, Amber Costello, Maureen Brainerd Barnes, Sandra Costilla, and Megan Waterman.
She didn't deserve this, just like nobody else's mother or sister or daughter deserves this. She really was a fabulous person, just lost in life.
For now, Rex Heuermann remains behind bars awaiting trial. The next step will be a hearing about the DNA evidence, key for the defense.
His goal with that is to get the DNA evidence completely thrown out, which would be very problematic for the prosecution.
I know he's extremely frustrated. He has said from day one he is not responsible for these murders. From day one, he wanted his day in court.
The fascination of the Gilgo Beach serial killer comes from many aspects. With all the twists and turns of a high-profile movie, people are gravitating to this story to get the answers that they've longed for so many years.